Hello everyone and welcome to today's episode, in which we will discuss games with pace concerns. Keep watching to the end of the show. A superb video game should move at the right pace throughout the entire experience to keep the player engaged, but not so quickly that they start to lose track of the story or the game's design. Pacing is essential in any form of leisure product, including movies, books, and music. So it comes to reason that video games must also take into account how a game is structured, how long it takes gamers to complete the essential content, and how long it takes to see everything the game has to offer. When ignored, video games may become bloated with plenty of content, resulting in an inconsistent experience at best and a repetitive slog at worst. One of the aspects of game design that the game designer cannot fix on their own is pacing. You should have your title put through playtesting to check how it functions from both an expert and novice perspective. You will need to draw a line in the sand since there will always be players who deem your game to be too quick or too slow. You don't want someone to grow bored with or lost in your game. Therefore, it might be difficult to know when to speed up or slow down. 10. Days Gone. Days Gone by Sony Bend has a reputation for dividing players. While some people adore it, others have only had a lukewarm reaction to it, due, among other things, to pacing concerns. Days Gone has a lot of dull and uninspiring quests. Furthermore, the game's unique element, the Freaker Hordes, is kept captive for the most of its duration, as players are forced to complete the same objectives repeatedly, creating an unpleasant experience. 9. Death Stranding. Death Stranding by Kojima Productions isn't everyone's cup of tea, but it's simple to see why those who did chant its praises non-stop. Even the most ardent of players, however, will concede that the game has pace problems, most of which are related to the gameplay of Death Stranding. The majority of the game involves making deliveries from one location to another while dealing with events that are meant to be frustrating, such BTs, timefall, and mules, which might become monotonous after a while. A big chunk of the game's length appears to be irrelevant to the greater tale, and the story's uneven pace further the annoyance at times. But if you can get beyond these obstacles, Death Stranding is a unique experience. 8. Fable 3. The player must amass support from the populace in order to depose the existing ruler of Albion. Initial backing, though, may be challenging to assemble depending on how much power the tyrant wields in a given area. The player must gather guild seals through completing tasks, interacting with the populace, or carrying out good deeds in order to earn support and make promises to better people's lives once the hero is in power in order to entice citizens to join the revolution. These promises may have an impact on the life of a single person, the entire population, or a certain class. The player has the choice to keep or break the promises they made in order to obtain their position once they have taken possession of the crown. Molyneux said that the game was taking a distinct tone from the others at the start of the game's calm announcement of Fable 3, because he thinks the third game in a series is difficult to achieve well. People will start to lose interest if all the rules have been established and all you have to give is a fresh narrative in a few different settings. 7. Red Dead Redemption 2. Red Dead Redemption 2 is a sprawling story about the Vanderlyn gang trying to outrun a rapidly changing America, and while the experience is best enjoyed at your own pace, even just following the critical path will require you to spend dozens upon dozens of hours. It is not without its challenges. Of course, not all missions are made equal, and some parts of the game are just unpleasant to play in comparison to others. Furthermore, the combat loop of lurking behind cover and knocking down opponents becomes tedious after a while, making plodding through this lengthy tale of redemption tedious at times. Having said that, Arthur's character arc is undeniably one that everyone should see. 6. God of War 2018. Sony Santa Monica achieved a superb combination of a genuine narrative and heart-pounding combat in 2018's God of War, while its pacing can be erratic at times. The game starts off strong and does a great job of introducing new mechanics, and if you stick to the critical path, God of War does have a great sense of pacing, but those looking to complete the tougher challenges, such as Valkyrie fights, will have to grind a lot of high-level gear to even stand a chance against these beasts, which can significantly detract from the overall pacing. 5. Fallout 4. Fallout 4 is a large post-apocalyptic open world with exciting tasks to do and characters to meet. While the primary quest isn't very long in and of itself, you will almost always be required to complete a number of side quests in order to get your character to the requisite level and stats. These side quests aren't awful in and of themselves, but they can significantly slow down the pacing for those looking to get to the critical path. Persona 5 Royal. Persona 5 is easily one of the longest games on this list, with tons of fantastic content that should keep gamers occupied for hundreds of hours. Persona 5 Royall adds tons of more content to the original's extremely lengthy 100-hour campaign, including but not limited to a third semester, new locales, events, and more. Time the Tale is enthralling and well worth seeing through to the finish. You may grow tired of cutting through creatures and crawling through dungeons after a while, contributing to the sensation that the game goes on for much too long. 3. Tales of Arise. A battle erupts at the summit of a deformed stone stronghold chiseled ruthlessly from the rocks by slave labor. Suddenly, a beam of living fire blazes up to the heavens, and an amnesiac hero triumphantly yells out his name as he defeats his terrible foe. Big fights, pointy-haired and forgetful heroes, nations based on the elements. Seems like standard RPG stuff, doesn't it? It's not even close. Tales of Arise is nothing like your usual RPG, let alone a Tales game. It's a strong, even bold, and reworking of the series, and one of the best RPGs of the year. As implied by the title, Tales of Arise is about rebellion, or to be more precise, about numerous rebellions, not just the larger political ones, although they undoubtedly have a significant impact. Up until 300 years before the events of Arise, the twin worlds of Rena and Donna coexisted peacefully. However, it's up to you to discover whether their existence was truly peaceful. The Renans created the satellite world and military outpost known as Lineages, from which they invaded Donna, capturing its inhabitants, wiping out its past, and even changing the planet's very foundations to suit their purposes. There are many other ways to rebel against corrupt governments. However, in the majority of RPGs, simply eliminating the antagonist or putting in place a good ruler is sufficient. Tales of Arise, on the other hand, provides an answer to the hypothetical question, what if a historian, political theorist, and social scientist produced a video game? The nations of Donna are essentially anime case studies on enslavement theory, revolt, and imperialism, frequently taken from obvious and unsettling real-world parallels. It picks off where most RPGs end off. Unmistakably modeled after Stalin's USSR and the paranoid self-destruction that his tyrannical rule encouraged in one section. Another area resembles a utopia, with good Renans coexisting peacefully with slave Donnans in a society based on egalitarian Enlightenment ideals. 2. Pokemon Sun and Moon. Pokemon Sun and Moon is a good enough game with many of positive attributes, but it has a long list of pace problems. Pokemon Sun and Moon gets off to a solid start with interesting content and a well-paced narrative, but it gradually turns into a pointless trip as players are forced to do trials after trials with little in the way of plot advancements, which may make the game feel tedious for that long. 1. Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain. At this time, everyone is familiar with the story of the Phantom Pain's difficult production cycle, which ultimately led to a rupture between series creator Kojima and developer Konami. Even though the game is still fantastic in so many aspects, there are some flaws, particularly with the tempo. After a certain point in the game, players are forced to repeat missions that get harder and add more requirements for completion. The game starts off fairly strong, with objectives that gradually get more complex as you chase down Skullface. Considering how many different stages earlier games had, this particular stretch feels particularly off-putting. Additionally, completing these objectives is absolutely necessary to reach the game's conclusion. Unfortunately, that's all the time we had for today. I really had fun and hope you enjoyed the show as well. If you liked the video and wish to get updates on this and other videos of the same kind, kindly click on the subscribe button and turn on the notification bar. See you in the next video. Until then, goodbye.